The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we're coming to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. This is the home for Autism Live. It is also the home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. We're thrilled to be here with you on this Wednesday morning. We're in May now. April is Autism Awareness Month, but for those of us who are in this autism community, every day is Autism Awareness Day. Every day is Autism Action Day. Every day is Autism and Advocacy Day. So we continue on in that format. We've got an amazing 2-hour live show for you here. In just a few minutes, we're joined by Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh for Ask Dr. Doreen. She's going to be answering your questions in real time. And then in our second hour today, we've got an amazing show for you. Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. We have the doctor behind that fidget, I couldn't think of the word, the fidget toy called Buzzies that has really been a buzz all over the internet. She's going to be here with us to talk about what a Buzzy is and why it's getting so much attention from the autism community and the world right now, why everybody's hooked on these things and wants to play with them. My son just got one last week and it's really fun and addictive. So, and we also have the gentleman who is the mastermind behind Coding Autism. If you've got a kiddo who is drawn to screen time and is liking that kind of thing, he's going to give us some important information about why that's a really good thing for our kids and how to feed that interest. So we're going to be talking with him about Coding Autism. All that's coming up in the second hour. But as I said in the first hour, Ask Dr. Doreen, the entire 2 hours is meant to be interactive. Samantha is going to show you some of the different ways that you can interact with us. I'll remind you that our homepage remains autism-live.com. There's a lot to do there. But the main thing is that you can be watching the live show. All that you have to do is click on the little triangle that's on the computer screen. That will start either the live show or the most recently recorded live show. If you'd like to go back in time, if you click on it's a memo icon that's in the upper left-hand corner. It will show you the 100 most recent episodes. If you want to go further back than that, please visit our YouTube channel, our Roku channel, our iTunes channel, our Stitcher channel. It's free in all of those locations. But on our live page on autism-live.com, there is a way for you to interact with us that is completely anonymous. It's our live feature. If you will put your cursor in the box that says your question, all you have to do is type and hit enter. Your message will be sent to us. You don't have to have a login, a username, a password, a credit card. It's all anonymous. We do encourage you to tell us where in the world you are and give us as much information about the question that you're asking, because that will give us the best chance of giving you information about resources that are close to you. Unfortunately, the playing field is not equal and even. So what we can tell somebody in Kansas is different than somebody we will tell in Dubai. So that's why we ask that you give us an idea of what's like the major city that's closest to you. All right, with all that in mind, I'm so excited and thrilled because it is time for Ask Dr. Doreen.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen. Good morning and welcome to Ask Dr. Doreen. We are here with Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh. She is a true expert in the field of autism. She is a visionary in the field of autism, having worked in this field for more than 30 years. I always feel like I'm telling on you when I say
No,
that, because
no,
you do
not at
not
all.
look old enough
I'm
to have
proud
been
of
working
it.
in any field for 30
I'm
years.
really proud of it. I will have very little guilt when I finally retire.
Well, and so that's the way it should
Pretty
be.
much, like, it's interesting, Shannon, because you never really think about these things,
Yeah.
but truthfully, my entire life is about autism. Like, I mean, of course, I feel my biggest accomplishment is my kids, but that aside, like, I really have done nothing other than autism since I was 15, so it's pretty crazy.
But when I look at how you have changed the world, I mean,
Well, thank you. I
you
appreciate
could raise your hand tomorrow and say, I'm done, and nobody would say you have not done enough. We hope you won't do that anytime
We
soon.
still have a lot of fun stuff ahead.
I'm glad,
Yes.
because there's a lot of people who look up to you and hang on your every word, because you are so wise in this field. And we're thrilled that you're here with us for this hour to answer. All right, we're going to take a break because we have a mic issue.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back with Dr. Grandpichet so that you can actually hear us. Stick with us.
Came out. Look at
How about that? We've been having a problem with that clip. I don't know whether it's a little broken.
Oh, yeah, it's
Do you
loose,
want to
yeah.
come in with a little piece of tape?
I should be able to. Is it okay now?
It's going to come out again.
Is it?
Yeah. We ordered some clips. Yeah, the glass tape will be great. We
It
ordered
just
some
seems to
clips
be
and
too loose, yeah.
And they,
Yeah, it comes out.
I think they just cheat. And we were gonna make one for dresses, and Barrett already has one that is
Yeah, it comes out. Oh, nice.
I gotta talk to you about the Corey Feldman thing.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk to you about that.
So
Thank
you
you.
had said though, I think you just had cut that piece of tape in like a third.
Even if it pops out, you can still hear me, no? Or no?
It just, I just don't want it to fall down.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you.
You had said last time you're not going to be here on the 24th.
I am.
What is autism?
What is autism?
What is autism?
Hold on.
What is
24th
autism?
of
What
month?
is autism?
What is autism?
I'm not.
I've been asking myself that for a very, very long time.
Maybe I am. Hold
Let me
on.
think about that one.
Can't tell if I leave on the 24th.
Trying to just
Let me think. Oh man,
Actually,
that's a
I'm
great
back.
one. Yes.
Autism is a neurological disorder that affects many of our kids in different ways.
It's a learning disability that affects the cognitive functions of the brain.
A lot of people have the misconception that it's a disability, and it's really not.
I look at it as like a special gift.
When one person thinks differently from another.
It's an opportunity for everyone to learn to understand someone that's a little different than them. Autism is the ability to educate.
They're given so much talent in different areas.
To me, autism means a chance to be with and be around people you really care about. Autism is beautiful.
It's a way of seeing the world differently.
Always unique, totally intelligent, and sometimes mysterious.
Happiness that comes out of my son's hard work.
is a movement.
Unpredictable.
That's right.
Awesome. Love. The field I want to work in.
Laughter, fun, joy. Autism is beautiful to me.
I want you to remember these three words. There is hope.
Welcome back. We've taken care of our sound issues, and we're back here with Dr. Doreen Grandpichet. As I was saying before, she's a true expert in the field of autism and a visionary, and has been instrumental in
Thank you very
making a
much,
difference
Sharon.
in so many people's lives, mine included. We're thrilled to have her here with us for this hour. We do like to give a disclaimer at the top of the hour that there is no expert that can give individual specific advice in this format. It's just unreasonable, and it would be disrespectful to the individuals that are seeking help to present it in any other way. So you ask whatever questions that you'd like to ask, and Dr. Grandpichet is going to give you some general information about that area that I think you'll find very informative, that will help you to go back to the experts who have eyes on that individual and can help you to make decisions from there.
Right.
But invaluable, as many of you had written in. Okay, I want to start with, I actually want to start just say really briefly about a conversation we were having just before we came live.
Yes.
That on Friday, Samantha and I both went to see Autism Rocks. And this is an event now that is a yearly event that was started by a 17-year-old on the autism spectrum because he was living in Thailand and he was seeing that he and his friends were experiencing some bullying and some separation in their high school. So he did a concert, I think he was 16 at that time, they did a concert in Thailand that changed the way everybody in the school looked at autism. Mm-hmm. They kind of separated it from the clinical and had people performing that were on the spectrum and some who weren't on the spectrum, and everybody got excited about it, and it became like accepted and kind of cool. And then he came over here to the United States to go to high school for a year here, and he was having some of the same issues in his high school and said, hey, I know what to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this concert. But in the interim, he went to a summer opportunity at UCLA and met this concert promoter, Ned Spector, and said, I want to do this and I want to do it in a bigger way. And suddenly it was on the 5-tower stage at Universal at the amphitheater, and it got big. It just all of a sudden got big. So last year was the first time that had happened, and many performers on the autism spectrum. One of them last year was Logan Shepard. We've talked about Logan before on the show. We show the video of him playing the drums. And Logan has been a running theme in my life.
Of course, absolutely.
Because Logan was the child that I met that I said, whatever these people are doing, I want to do what they're doing. And they said, well, we're doing card. This is what makes the difference. I get chills, and I get, when I think about where we would have been had we not met that family and that little boy.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. And that's just like one of those things the universe does, But for me, Logan is this little 2-year-old blonde boy who used to run around the office in the old building. And he was just so incredibly cute that I would, whenever he would come around my office, I'd like grab him and bring him in and just like hang out with him for a bit, because he's always been like the most adorable human being. And now he's just such a force, and I'm so proud of him. He's amazing.
And he's done truly amazing things. But I almost feel like I want to say to our viewers, he's a part of your life too, because he's in so many of the videos that are on Skills. When you click on the video to see what, and you see a blonde-haired little boy, that's Logan. Mm-hmm. So he's almost like the Gila of autism here at CARD, that he's connected to everybody in some way. And then, so that he performed last year, and it was amazing with his band Magnified. And then this year, he really was the headliner, and his band wasn't available to play, so they put together a band around him called Logan's Heroes. And the guitarist from Kiss came to play a couple of numbers with him. And it was so emotional. He was amazing. And when it was all over, the audience was chanting, Logan, Logan, amazing. Because he was, and I was just saying to Dr. Granpeche that while we were live at the time, and I don't know if any of you guys saw it, because then subsequently Facebook took our video down because of copyright things, and it is what it is. But if you were watching live, you saw it was off the chain. Is that what the kids say? Off the hook, off the chain. It was off the whatever, off the planet. But one mom wrote in and said, because we all get a little like, and she said, and exactly how is this helping children with autism?
Yeah, she didn't realize Logan's history. I love that.
Yeah, which I thought was the ultimate
compliment.
Yeah,
it
was like, what exactly does this rock concert have to do with autism? Well, let me just tell you a little bit about what this has to do with it. And she had not seen previously all the other performers that were on the spectrum, and I don't want to leave them out. It was a cavalcade of wonderfulness, and some other performers that weren't on the spectrum that came to donate their time, and stars who donated their time for videos and stuff. But Logan was the star. Not sorry. And it was amazing.
That's
so we
amazing.
just want to give a shout out to them. And there are videos that exist, not ours, of Logan playing. I'm working on that. But anyway. All right. I want to start with a question since we've gone there. Okay. Hello, Shannon and Dr. Doreen. My 11-year-old son has ASD, ODD, and anxiety. He doesn't take any responsibilities for his actions and overreacts to everything. For example, an accidental bump is a punch. He negotiates with me and my husband on pretty much everything or just refuses. We're getting worn down. School is too. He avoids all work with tantrums, defiant outbursts, or just walking around the room doing nothing. He has been tested and is cognitively average to above average. What can we do to develop his emotional and social awareness and get him to follow simple instructions like brush your teeth or put down the iPad, it's dinner time? He also has a very limited diet, mostly carbs, crackers, bagels, pizza. I really appreciate you answering my questions.
So I wish that this child was somewhere close to us, because these are, in some ways you're blessed and in some ways not. The blessing is that he's very high functioning, very intelligent, and this is all just behavioral challenges that are manipulations, and they're relatively easy to handle if you do things the right way. The curse is that the same thing is that he's intelligent and he is manipulating everyone. But I mean, that's a really good thing in some ways. So it's a little complicated because you have so many different things going on. The issue of carbs is one thing that you need to deal with separately. I would suggest that, there's several different issues, and I'll just try to help you sort them out so you can deal with them separately, because there's a lot of different things here. So he negotiates with me. Negotiation is definitely a two-sided thing. In other words, if you did not respond, I don't know what he's negotiating, because no one's responding to him. So what I think is happening here is that he is either negotiating, like in other words, saying, no, I really don't want to do this. Why can't I do something? He's arguing, or this, not necessarily being compliant. And if you engage in that or whatever, it escalates, I assume, to, I'm not sure what the definition is of, he overreacts. So I'm assuming that he will negotiate and then he will eventually tantrum and have an outburst. And it sounds like most of this is demand-based. In other words, what he's trying to do is escape from a request or demand. That's what it sounds like. I can't tell for sure from what you've written in, but it's pretty basic. If that is the case, this is, it is to some extent social awareness, but I'm not sure that it is entirely social awareness. In fact, I think he's much more aware than anybody gives him credit. Social awareness is one thing. Being aware of what is expected, he probably knows. The fact is that he just doesn't really care to please those around him. If you think about it, and he's 11, most of our kids are compliant in order to receive reinforcers. The type of reinforcer they receive differs. Some kids do it because they're absolutely afraid of their parents and they don't want the parent to be angry. Other kids do it because they want the parent to be proud. Other kids do it because meeting demands will earn them a tangible reinforcer, like, do your homework and then you'll get this dessert, or do your homework and we'll take you out or buy you something, whatever it is. But it's always, everything we do is to gain reinforcement or to avoid punishment, and it's always that. So in this case, it's very simple to think to ourselves, what is he gaining from this and what is he avoiding? And what he's avoiding is obviously he's avoiding work of any type, and that in itself is reinforcing. And then he's also gaining probably not just that he's avoiding this stuff, but he's possibly also gaining some interaction with you guys or whatever it is he engages in instead of doing his work. So the real answer, I guess, in a nutshell, and I'm not telling you to do it this way because you have to do it right behaviorally, but the summary is he's trying to avoid something, and we have to make sure he doesn't get to avoid that thing, because the way that he is avoiding it is not adaptive for him. The fact that he argues, negotiates, or has a tantrum is not okay. So what has to happen is we have to reduce the demands, be very selective on particular demands that are made, and when those particular demands are made, it must be followed through and it must be reinforced. So in other words, we're ignoring everything else that's going on, and let's say A very simple demand is just brush your teeth. Okay, brush your teeth is the very minimal demand. And what you do is you select only that. The rest of the time, you're not interfering at all with anything else he's doing. It is just brush your teeth. And brush your teeth is where he will earn whatever it is that is a major reinforcer. It sounds like the iPad is a major reinforcer because he seems to have it. Instead of allowing him to have the iPad all day, you should probably have him earn the iPad for brushing teeth. So you brush your teeth, you get the iPad. It's really that simple. And that's the type of example. It might not work in this case because he might have access to the iPad for other reasons. I really don't know. But the bottom line is you reduce the demands. You select one particular demand, one particular request that you're working on. That particular request earns him the largest reinforcer in his day. And without complying to that, he doesn't get that reinforcer any other way. And so he's smart. He will immediately figure out that if I want my iPad, I have to brush my teeth. No arguing, no discussion, no negotiation, no conversation around it, no attention to the rest of the stuff he does or doesn't do. And that's it. And that's how you start. Now, you're going to need a behavior analyst to help you with this. If you're near a card site, we'd love to help you with this. If you're not, find a behavior analyst, because what they will do for you is they'll list all the different things. So like going to school, doing homework, maybe getting ready, brushing your teeth, transitioning from preferred activities like giving up various preferred things like the iPad, going to dinner, eating healthy foods. I mean, there's going to be a million things that are demands that you actually want him to comply to. You list all those things, you prioritize them. You say, what is the most important right now? And you actually start with the lowest, the easiest to comply to. And then on the other list, you write all the different things that are reinforcers. And you prevent him from having access to the most powerful of the reinforcers unless he does a particular thing. And you focus on one at a time, so that it's not like all day long punitive. No, all day long he's doing whatever he wants to do, except for when I place this one demand on him, he then has to do this thing. So what you're doing in effect is you are starting with a small demand, high reinforcer, and then over the course of time you increase the demands and you reduce the reinforcers until it looks like real life. You know, I always try to tell people when we're kids, we do much less and we get a lot of reward. Like for instance, you know, we'll get up and I don't know, get dressed, and when we're very little, and everybody's like, oh, good job, you got dressed, or you know, go even further back, take 2 steps. Yeah. And everybody's like, ooh, you walked. Yeah. Right? So it's like you get a huge amount of reinforcer for a very small demand. And as you age, it just becomes more and more and more and more. Like imagine if you woke up in the morning and someone said, yay, you got out of bed, you know, yeah. Nobody cares. Also, nobody cares that you get dressed and groom yourself and go to work and all that sort of stuff.
That you went
right?
pee-pee in the potty.
Exactly.
Nobody's going, woohoo, anymore.
Exactly. So with time, we learn to just do more and more for less reinforcer. And for reinforcer that is more long-term. In fact, people who are successful manage to like reinforce themselves during the day, but then also to be able to wait for the longer term. Education is a long-term reinforcer, as an example. So all these types of things, but you know, so with our kids, it's not that they're emotionally or socially unaware, it's just that they haven't learned this whole system of I have to do a certain amount in order to get something. And usually the reason for that is that when they have a diagnosis, we as parents tend to worry about them and give in to a lot of stuff. And so oh, he has autism, so I should just let him have his iPad. He has autism, maybe letting him do this is a good social thing for him. So we give in to a lot of stuff, and then all of a sudden we find ourselves in a situation where like the child is manipulating everything around them. That's not a bad sign. I always tell people manipulation is a really good sign of intelligence. It's a fabulous thing, but it's difficult for parents, you know? So don't be discouraged. If you can get a behavior analyst, go back to the basics and try to format his day. I'm afraid there's just too much going on here for me to want to do that for you without knowing him. What a behavior analyst will do is they'll do what's called a functional behavior assessment, and they will be able to really identify each time he has a behavior, what is the antecedent, what is the consequence, how do we change the environment to make that better.
Can we take just a second, though, to talk about the fact that this young man is 11?
Yes.
And that these are things that the people in the rest of their world are going, well, he's 11, and this is the teenage years.
Right.
And they're kind of telling this parent, I'm sure, oh, this isn't that big of a deal. And, oh, you're going to start ABA therapy for this? Like,
Right.
they're going to put it on you that you, as a parent, should be able to just get this in place. Or that this isn't that dire,
Right.
or your kid is too high functioning for ABA, or you shouldn't, or, you know, first of all, that it's going to be expensive, but in all likelihood, your insurance will cover this because of your child's
absolutely.
diagnoses.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And this is not long-term stuff either. This is easy stuff. Like, you know, if you really hit it hard at 11, within a year or so, you'll have a pretty compliant child.
And an appropriately compliant child who's happier.
Oh, absolutely.
Who's getting more done and will get more done. I think if we were to look at, okay, this is 11, and you could do what Dr. Grandpichet asked you to do, and by the time he's 13, you will have a happier existence. He will have a happier existence. You'll have a better relationship, and you'll be launched into those teenage years on a much better platform to help him to get to success.
Right.
Or you could say, I just, you know, it's annoying and it's upsetting and it, you know, kind of wrecks dinner and it wrecks the afternoon and it wrecks my self-esteem and it wrecks his self-esteem, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. And then you're going to have to deal with it with teenage hormones, and he's going to be that much bigger, and it will be that much harder and take that much longer, and he's going to be that much more set in his ways.
Oh, and it's going to be beyond management when he's an adult. Let me just put that in there as well. Like, the sooner you deal with it, the better. And, you know, I want to say, like, the beginning of this email says that your child has ASD, ODD, which is oppositional defiant disorder, and anxiety. So oppositional defiant disorder, to me, is a very, very manageable thing. In other words, most of the time with oppositional defiant disorder is specifically children who really have just not learned the connection between their own behavior and the reinforcers in their environment. Why is that? That's because they've had access to reinforcers despite their own behavior. So they've never realized that good behavior gets reinforcers, bad behavior doesn't, because no matter what they've done, they've accessed reinforcers. So that is one that you can focus on getting rid of, that diagnosis. Anxiety, I'll be honest with you, every child has a certain level of anxiety. As Shannon was saying, one of the things that I see with our kids is that, you know, when they feel like someone else is in control, they have less anxiety. When they feel that no one can manage them, they have more anxiety. So it will be very helpful for you to get these things under control, for your child to have a set of rules by which they have to live. That helps contain our anxiety, to be honest with you. Rules help anxiety. So that's just
because then you know
something
what
to
to
think about.
expect.
Absolutely. And you know what's okay and what's not okay.
You don't
and
have to guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, absolutely. So I think what we're trying to get to is, as overwhelming as it may seem to do the intervention, it actually, and when you think about what a year is and setting your child up for success for a year and having a better existence for you, it's really worthwhile to do this full on, see if you can get some ABA services going.
Definitely.
And probably your insurance will cover it. And write to us if you need some help figuring out how to do that. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to be back with some more questions that you guys have been sending in on our live feature, so stick with us.
This is Logan Shepard. At first glance, he looks like a typical American teenager. He plays in a band, loves hanging out with his friends, he doesn't like doing homework, and he's not really fond of broccoli. But Logan Shepard is not your typical 14-year-old. Logan was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. He was nonverbal, made no eye contact, and his parents were told to abandon all hope. Instead, his parents began an intensive intervention treatment. At its center was a quality ABA program known as the CARD method. This is Logan Shepard now.
All I really want to say is, like, I'm kind of copying Martin Luther King. I kind of have a dream, like, that one day, like, I can just, like, inspire people and never give up. Because, like, that's what I want to do in life. Because if I can succeed, they can succeed. And I will succeed.
To follow Logan's musical journey, visit www.facebook.com/officialdrummerrock or @drummerrock on Instagram. For more information on the CARD method, visit www.centerforautism.com or call 800-345-CARD. Rock on, Logan.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. We're here with Dr. Doreen Grant-Pichet, and she's answering your questions in real time. I want to go to one that came in this morning on a question that came in this morning on Facebook. No, this one came in on a live feature. And then I'm going to do one that came in on Facebook. Dear Shannon and Dr. Doreen, can you help with this situation? Told teen to be ready to leave when I get home. After coming home, I told him we are home. After 5 minutes, asked him to get going. He says he's almost done. In his head, there is time before getting to his activity. He's right if we didn't have to drop off his sibling first. By the way, my teen stayed calm while I blew a gasket before I realized it could be I didn't state the facts clearly. Is this A, poor parent communication skills, B, social inferencing, or C, teen had thoughts stuck in his head, i.e. leave at home time versus what leave at this time versus what parent said? I thought he understood, but apparently not, and thank you for your advice. So as I'm understanding this, because this happens in my house at least twice a day, that I say, you know, we need to leave at this time, and my kid knows from previous what time we really need to leave. So he just discounts what I said, but I didn't share with him, we need to go to the bank first. You know, but I said to him, we need to go at this time. So she told him we need to go. She didn't tell him we have to drop your sibling off. He was reacting saying, but I know how much time I have. So he wasn't moving any closer to the door. So is that...
You know, I mean, all of these things are possible. It's definitely a kind of a miscommunication, I think. It's very possible that the child knew, oh, we usually leave at 11, but now, you know, mom's expectation was today we're going to leave at 10:45 and didn't explain it. That's possible, obviously. I also think that there's other things that are possible going on here. For instance, a lot of times with our teens, they just don't have very good time management. So he might have had the intention of leaving at 10:45, but at 10:40 he's not ready yet. Like that kind of stuff happens with teens. That's just because they haven't been able to plan things ahead better. The other thing is, I'm not sure I'm not sure in this case he was even given an actual exact time, or
it was when mom was home.
Yeah, or it was stuff like when I'm home and when, that kind of stuff. So if it, yes, it's a matter of being more clear. It's about matter of saying, like, you have 10 minutes. I'm starting the timer right now. It's a matter of actually following through and leaving in 10 minutes. It might mean that once in a while he won't be able to leave with you. So you need to be prepared for that. Have someone else at home, so he just can't, he will lose the opportunity to leave. That's also a possibility. The other thing is that it's sometimes with our kids, with their teens, they're focused on, they're having a hard time making a decision due to things being imperfect, let's say. So for instance, they're busy trying to get ready and their outfit isn't perfect, or they planned 5 things they were going to do in their room before leaving, and the 4th thing hasn't been done yet. There's some imperfection in their environment that's delaying their process, and they lose track of time.
I think this is not just teenagers. I think I fall into this
Yeah,
category
sure.
as well. This is all EF, right? Executive functions.
It's EF, very much so, and it's saliency. It's being able to pick what's more important than the other things, and to say, this doesn't matter. I'm going to be able to let it go because this deadline supersedes and I have to get out of the door. And that produces often a lot of anxiety in people because they now have a dangling situation which wasn't dealt with. So it's just basic stuff like that. But I think what you can do to change it or help it is, just be more clear in your communication, use time frames, use timers, write things down if your teen can read them, give more reminders of the time that you have to leave, and it'll work.
But I actually wonder about the more reinforcers. If in the beginning,
Absolutely.
if it's a thing that we say, I need you to be ready the minute I walk in the door, and if you are, you get X.
No question. That's a very, very good tactic. Yes, absolutely. Like, if you're by the door when I walk in, you're going to get X. That's going to be most effective.
Or like, once you hear me come in the door, you've got 1 minute to meet me at the door fully ready. And if you do,
this is what happens.
This is what's going to happen.
Exactly.
It'll be party time.
That's right.
Okay. Because as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, that's a good. And then, okay. In any case, so, let us know what happens with that. I want to go to a question that came in live on the Facebook, but my iPad just decided to time out.
Okay.
But it's about Jack Riley on the A word.
Mm-hmm.
They said, hey, I'm curious as to what did little Jack Riley protocol did he follow, and if you can share, besides ABA. My son will be 3, following a strict diet, 10 hours of ABA a week, 2 hours of speech. I'm asking for more, so we're working on that. For Jack Riley, did he do diet, supplements? I do all that, but he's at a plateau. ABA has been going for 10 months and speech and diet as well. Maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah.
And this is a great question.
It is a great question, and I'm really glad you asked it.
Yeah.
And we often say this to people, and it just never seems to change the world enough, because I think the world is governed by funding, unfortunately. So the one thing that's missing is the number of hours of ABA that you're doing. I hate to tell you this, but so Jack, and I don't know, he may have been on a diet.
He did do the GFCF diet for a while. You can actually watch in the show that they stopped the diet at a very early point. They didn't see a huge big bang.
Right.
They saw a little bit of a difference, and when they converted back to the regular diet, they didn't see much of a difference, and that is the case with some kids.
That's right. A lot of kids don't necessarily react to the diets at all, and it's not necessarily, what's important, I think, for parents to realize, and there's no blame in this or judgment at all. As a parent, I know we look for the single thing that's going to be the most effective and fastest. And usually we're looking at diets or medication, and we're hoping that that's going to be the magic trick, you know? But it isn't. And the truth is that with our kids, there's just a certain amount of learning that has been lost, and you have to reteach that. And that's as simple as it gets. Now, and it's a lot of work. It's several years of intensive work, but it has really significant payoff, and it's worth doing it. It's really important to pay attention to the fact that all the research in ABA shows that 10 hours a week is not going to get to the highest outcome. All the studies in ABA show that the kids who did 10 hours a week didn't succeed. That doesn't mean they didn't learn. They learn, they just don't learn rapidly enough or enough to catch up to their normal age. The kids who did 40 hours a week are the ones that had the most positive outcome, which is why this is an intensive program. You must change to an intensive program if you expect to have the highest outcome. Obviously, if someone is going to school for 10 hours a week, they'll learn a certain amount. If they go to school 40 hours a week, they'll learn more. It's really that simple, no matter what the age. If the child is young, they're going to learn the most with an intensive program. That said, you have to also realize that this child was receiving, Jack Riley was receiving a CARD program. CARD is a little bit different from ABA, just standard ABA, because we don't just focus on reduction of behavior. We focus a lot on skill teaching. And to me, Shannon, that's one of the most important things, because behavior, challenging behavior, is not really a symptom of autism. It's just a side effect of not being able to communicate, not being able to understand what's going on. So for my purposes, the more you learn, the more you can communicate yourself, the more you can understand what's going on around you, the more you can read people, the more you know what's expected of you, the more you can acclimate to everything that's expected of you in your environment, the less you're going to have challenging behaviors, because life is just much easier to handle for you. So the CARD program is very heavy focused on teaching skills. And from day one, we're just pushing skills on you, all kinds of skills, from nonverbal skills to verbal skills to social to play to cognitive, all kinds of stuff. It's a lot of teaching. And all that teaching goes together with like increasing your skills and then at the same time reducing your challenging behaviors. So I think those are the main things. Like, make sure you are infusing your child with a ton of skills. Perhaps get the CARD book if you're not doing a CARD program, and you'll see how it is different or not from your current program. You can always go to our website on skills, which which is skillsforautism.com. There you'll see our curriculum and our program, and also just increase the hours. That's probably the number one thing you can do, is increase your hours.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know that in Jack Riley's case, they didn't see a big bang with the GFC diet. In our case, we did see a big difference, and I think it's worthwhile to try the diet. And I think it's worthwhile to try the diet while you're increasing your ABA hours, because I firmly believe that in our case, if my son had just started ABA and started a 40-hour program without being on the diet, we would not have gotten where we got. But we started on the diet and he was ready for ABA, and we ramped up to 40 hours. And I really feel like the diet made it so that he could take in more.
That's exactly the way I say it as well, Shannon. I totally agree with you. The diet is sort of like, I use the comparison of putting on glasses.
Yeah.
Like, if you have vision problems and someone's trying to teach you on a board and you don't have glasses, you're going to be having a real hard time. It's going to be very slow because you're going to have to squint in order to read everything. The diet is just like glasses. The diet sort of helps our kids clear up, the kids who actually have some allergies or reactions to those particular foods or can't break them down. Diets in general help us just feel more energized, more awake, more clear, more able to focus, all that sort of stuff, as does sleep. There's a million things that lead to our ability to learn better. But without the instruction, you're just not, what are you going to learn? So the instruction is ABA, and you have to have all of that in place. Otherwise, it's still a very slow process at learning from the environment.
Absolutely. And we've been saying the diet, and there are like 22
Numerous
diets. But
correct.
I think to start with, where everybody levels out, first, I believe getting as organic as you possibly can.
Yes.
And then doing a GFCF, which is a gluten-free, casein-free diet. We've done a lot on the show about it. We have a whole segment with recipes that are fairly easy to do and really tasty, and there are more products available now that are GFCF than ever before. Be careful that you don't get things that are so filled with sugar and artificial colors, because that's available now too, and we need to watch those as well. But I just want to say there's nothing harmful about trying the GFCF diet.
Definitely.
But it's not one of those things you can be loosey-goosey with. If you're going to try it, you got to try it, and you got to say, we're going to try it for 3 to 6 months at least, and have no infractions during that time. But again, Right now, it is critical. Your child is about to be 3. It's critical that you get more than 10 hours of ABA.
Right. And
Whatever it takes. Whether you have to do
absolutely.
it yourself,
Yes.
with skills, whatever it takes.
And for a 3-year-old, you should have no issue getting your insurance to ramp up to 40 hours. Insurance companies will respect that because the research says that. The other thing is, if you are going to do a GFCF diet, please start with casein. Just eliminate casein. Wait 3 weeks to a month so that you can determine whether or not casein was effective, removing casein was effective, and then go to gluten, and then remove gluten, and you will not see an effect with gluten. Usually with casein, if your child is reactive to casein, you'll see a response, you'll see a change in the child within a week. Casein is really rapid. You'll see an immediate response. And the response you're looking for is stuff like, the child being more awake or more kind of, first thing you'll see is like dark rings around the eyes disappearing, and the child is much more paying attention to the right things and curious and interested and so on, and it'll possibly affect sleep as well and improve sleep. With gluten, you're going to have the child on a very strict gluten-free diet for, I would say, 1 to 2 months before you see a real response. And again, the type of thing you'll see is if the child has inflammation in the gut, like if usually some of our kids have either diarrhea or constipation or bloating, that sort of stuff starts to go away and the child feels better and is paying attention better as a result. So do them separately at first so that you don't have to do both, because you want to know which one it is. And not every child responds to both. A lot of kids immediately respond to taking casein out of their diet and they don't need more than that. Some kids who have GI inflammation seriously do need to go to a gluten-free. And then, of course, as Shannon said, there's many more diets. There's corn that some of the kids are responding negatively to, soy that many kids can't digest. And there's other types of diets that are, specific carb diet. There's many other types of diets. So you should probably educate yourself on what would be appropriate for your child.
Absolutely. There's a lot to be considered there, and we've done a lot of segments on it, and we're happy to take more questions on it. But right now we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and try to squeeze in 2 questions before we leave, one that just came in on the Facebook and one that just came in on the live feature, so stick with us.
A lot of adults don't really believe kids. They think, kids are kids, what are they talking about? But when a child stands up for what they believe in, it's so strong and powerful. I first got involved with autism advocacy 4 years ago when my friend was diagnosed. When I found out about my friend's diagnosis, I didn't really understand what it meant. But it didn't matter to me or change our friendship. I didn't look at her any differently. We still had so much fun together. Now I know that she experiences life a little differently than me, and that's okay. Knowing what she goes through has helped me to understand and be more caring towards other people in similar situations. I got involved with ACT Today because I wanted to do whatever I could to help. They provide options like behavioral therapy, medical care, social skills programs, assistance to military families, and much more. Being there for my friend was my #1 priority. I've been volunteering and spreading the word about the cause via my social media platform because raising awareness is a crucial first step. There needs to be more kids and teens involved to make sure that our voices are heard just as loudly as the adults. You may be small like me, but your acts of kindness are not.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. We're here with Dr. Doreen Grant-Piché, and she's answering your questions in real time. I want to go now to a question that came in on our live feature. Hello, ladies. My son is 6 and has anxiety disorder NOS. He attends a regular first grade class, but has a lot of challenging behavior that is reported by his teacher. Inappropriate touching of other students, loud verbal outbursts, negotiation and refusal to get out of work, and he is very controlling. His way or he throws a fit. He has been physically aggressive at recess, so he is not allowed to play with his classmates at recess and has to earn recess with everyone by playing safely for 2 days in a separate area. He can pick one friend, but they usually say no. is there a better plan? He now has a 1-to-1 aide during recess, so maybe she can help him learn how to play with other kids.
Ugh,
Yeah, I know. It's
that breaks
heartbreaking.
my heart. How old is he?
6.
And does he have an ASD diagnosis? Because it said anxiety NOS, which doesn't exist. So, I'm wondering what diagnosis we're talking about here. So maybe anxiety and autism, I would imagine.
I would think so.
If you are live, please respond and let us know what his diagnosis is actually. But this is very similar to the first question we addressed. And we're just talking about a child here who doesn't really know how his own behavior corresponds to the things in the environment. I don't like the environment he's in. I don't like the fact that he selects another child to play with, but then the other child usually says no. Obviously, the other children are going to say no because he's been inappropriately touching them. He's been hurting them. He's not considered someone that a child would want to play with at this point. And he is young enough where, honestly, if there's any possible way of doing this, if it was my child, I would pull him out of school and I would really work on teaching him to control these behaviors and teaching him some skills having to do with how to interact with other kids and how to play with them and all this sort of stuff. Before I put him in that environment, honestly, I think he's probably struggling most with theory of mind. In other words, being able to understand other people's perspectives. And I'm guessing that he has a very, very hard time. I'm just reading too much into it perhaps at this point, but I'm seeing this as a relatively high functioning child who has a very hard time with other kids because he's not able to understand them, and he gets frustrated and he's therefore becoming physically aggressive, and then that causes the other kids to want to stay away from him, and it's a downward spiral which is not going to lead to success for him. So if anything, if you can't pull him out and do homeschooling, then I would, the summer's coming up. This is a perfect opportunity to be working on these things during the summer. Please, take him out of school, see if you can get an ABA program in place where the focus of the program is just teaching him play skills and theory of mind, all the perspective taking stuff. And if you don't know about some of this stuff, please go on Skills. We have a whole curriculum area that's dedicated to perspective taking. It's called our cognition curriculum, and it's a really good place to start because you'll learn a lot about all the things a child has to think about in regards to how other people perceive him and what other people expect and so on. I would start with that. Anxiety usually goes away when we're able to understand how other people perceive us, what is expected of us, what behavior is approved, not approved, allowed, and so on and so forth. But right now, it sounds like he's in an environment where success for him is going to be hard to achieve.
But let's also say that if you take some time, whether it's that you finish out the school year or take him out now, as Dr. Grandpichet said, and get in that intensive. And by the way, that we're seeing more and more parents, because they have insurance funding, that are able to do that. That are able to say medical necessity. It's not you taking the child out forever. Like, it really could be a relatively short period of time. It could be that you during this summer, you can get him to the point where when he goes into second grade, he's set up for success. But imagine if, what you were being told to do is, you're playing baseball and you're up at bat and you need to hit a home run. And you can't do it, right? Because you're nervous and there's people watching and the pitcher's throwing the ball and the ball goes by and the moment is over and you didn't do it. And that's the only time you ever get to practice. You don't ever have any batting practice where you go to the side and go, this is how we do it. And then let's practice it without the crowd. Chances are that you would never get better at batting practice.
And that's exactly, Shannon, what the problem is. Often we try very hard to get our kids to improve while they're up for bat,
Right. And we want to get them up to bat eventually.
Yeah.
We're not saying never up to bat, but
Right.
but take them to the side, work on those skills, then do one practice so you can do a play date.
That's right.
And have them, so it's not the school situation, but it's a play date where you've got a little control and the child can't say no.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So you set them up for success and then eventually get him back into second grade in a better, because if you don't, unfortunately what's going to happen is he's going to remember this and be like, nobody wants to play with me.
That's right.
And then when you get to second grade, as the kids get bigger, they're going to say, the typical, because he's in a neurotypical classroom right now, they're going to say that setting isn't, that's not the least restrictive environment that's going to work for him, and they're going to move him someplace else, and it's all going to start to fall apart.
Absolutely. And I mean, all of that aside, it's just, you don't want your child unhappy all day long.
Exactly.
And like the biggest thing I think for me is that bothers me about this whole thing is that he's failing nonstop. And you never, ever want to let the child fail. That was one of the biggest things years ago, everybody used to ask me, like, why do you hold the child back from school? Because parents are also, we're always thinking, oh, I got to get him into school. I got to get him in. I couldn't care less about academics before my child can socially communicate, have language, be happy, be able to interact with other kids. And that to me is extremely important. I don't want the kids going to school being failing. They have to be successful. Right. So that's why I think you should be the one to pull him out of this placement. Either work on it intensively. If there's any way that you could do 40 hours a week for the 3 months of summer, you'll have a different child by the end of the summer. Or if you can't do that, then find a placement for him that is easier, that is a lower ratio of kids, that perhaps you're looking at like we used to call them aphasia classrooms. So these are typical kids who have language disability, or kids who are bilingual and therefore haven't picked up English or something like that. That type of environment is going to be easier on your child than an environment with typical kids. And Shannon is absolutely right. This is first grade. By third or fourth grade, you're going to have kids who are going to be mean about it. So you want to get things sorted out before that time.
And if you need to keep him in school, you absolutely can't pull him out, and there is no other placement. The one other thing I would say is to ask for, call an IEP meeting and ask for assessment for recreational aid. That they are trained specifically. I didn't even know these things existed until I found out that they existed. And these are amazing people that come in and look just from sports and leisure and how they socially interact in those things. They can do an assessment. They can add goals to your IEP. So this aid that you have that's one-on-one, it might just be a regular aid, and what you need is a recreational support expert. So last thing, we've got 3 minutes and I want to get to this last question.
Sure.
Hi, my 10-year-old constantly stims with verbal scripting. The only time he doesn't stim is when he's in a moving vehicle. What can I do to minimize the stimming, especially at school? Thanks for taking the time answering my question. You've got 2 minutes. I know it's impossible.
Sure, no, that's okay. That's kind of an interesting question. Verbal stimming, I assume the child is repeatedly saying something. So kind of, rote repetitive statement, maybe something they've heard on TV or whatever. Just trying to figure out the topography of the behavior, actually.
Yeah.
And that's actually kind of interesting to hear that he does that except for when he's a moving vehicle. I wonder if when he's in a moving vehicle, it's because there's enough visual stimulation that he doesn't need to produce the auditory stimulation himself. So something about this that's interesting for me is that he's producing some sort of stimulation for himself. What I would test first, and this is the types of situations where I wish I had more time to get into this with you, but what I would test, and please write back to us once you've tested this, is when he verbal stims, if you put on his head noise-canceling headphones, will he continue to stim or will he stop? Because a lot of times our kids will verbally repeat something because they want to hear it, because the auditory input is the self-stimulation they're seeking. If that is the case, if you see his verbal self-stimulatory behavior stopping or going down drastically when you put on noise-canceling headphones, then start putting appropriate stuff on the noise-canceling headphones, like, for instance, music, and or just things that he needs to learn, auditory, instruction. And see if you can start increasing the duration of time with the noise-canceling headphones on, which will automatically reduce the self-stimming. So please try that and come back to me and tell me, because that's going to be fascinating to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're unfortunately out of time because we have to let you go do other things.
Sure,
but
absolutely.
we appreciate you so much more than you
Always
could
a
ever
pleasure.
know.
Thank you. And I just want to make sure you know that next week, of course, I'm here, and then I think it's the summer is starting, and I'm going to be traveling a little bit, so
All
I
right.
might miss a few weeks.
Okay, and honestly, I'm gonna travel a little bit myself, and so that I'm gonna get places and hopefully get to see some of you out in the field, out and about.
Awesome.
But we'll keep you posted on what our summer schedule is. We have some amazing interns that are going to be joining us, and so we're going to be doing some really wild and woolly things.
Wonderful.
But we're going to take a break right now. I believe. Are we going to the A word, Samantha? Yes, we are, she said. And then when we come back, we are going to be here with Nancy Allspaw-Jackson for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. We're going to talk about buzzies with the doctor who created them. And then we're also going to talk about coding autism. So stick with it. And we got a lot of in the news. So stick with us. Here is the A word.
Penguin. Is he going to come out of the egg?
Eggs.
Egg. Can you say g? Say egg. Egg. Good trying. Miss Jessica's here. Yay!
It's going to be a fun day.
Yay! Hi, Miss Jessica.
Hi, Miss Jessica.
What's this? Baby. Baby? Who's this? Is this a mommy? Yeah? Who else is in here? Is this a daddy? Daddy? That's a daddy? Daddy. And a mommy. And a what? And a what? Say, and a baby. Does the baby go in here? Say, sit down. Say, sit down. Yeah, you gonna go inside? Whoa! Woo, are you gonna fly in the sky? There, let's go. Up the stairs. Let's go sit down. Yeah, sit down. Ooh. Okay, take off. Bye. See you later. Right now we're working on functional pretend play, which involves having him play with toys appropriately. For instance, having an airplane and putting the people in the airplane and flying it appropriately, so that when he does go to preschool, because other kids are doing imaginative play too, creative play, so he would be able to play with the other kids as well, appropriately and functionally. So right now it's just a lot of imitation, but once you just model for him a couple times, he can play with it, no problem. So with the functional pretend play program, with the kitchen set and everything, it's really good for him, because since he has so many issues with feeding, he can play with the spoons, the forks, and not worry about having to actually feed himself anything. He can pretend to feed himself, feed me, feed the baby. There isn't an outcome where he has to eat anything at all. Look, go. You try. Nice job. Very good. So yeah, so having and handling fake food isn't a problem, but when it comes to actually seeing real food, he can totally tell the difference, and he just sometimes just refuses, or most of the time just doesn't even touch it, versus all these things, he has no problem. Cut. Good job. You want to peel the orange? What is this? Say orange. Orange. Here, peel it. There you go. Nice job. His mom has been having children shoot themselves, like brushing their teeth, jumping. And the other day, she showed me one where the kids were jumping. And he was watching it, and after that, he was actually jumping and imitating them too. And he actually got air, which we've been working on for a couple weeks already. When he sees the kids actually talking to him, he wants to do it even more.
So these are made by friends of yours?
Yeah, they posted them onto his website called Watch Me, Jack Riley.
And who came up with that idea?
That was my idea because he likes to watch kids on TV. And he thinks it's all very funny. But we need to get them eating. And I think that will help him tremendously. Do you want to watch the kids jump now? They're talking to you! Bye, Jack Riley. Do you want to watch the ABCs or do you want to watch jumping again? ABCs or jumping? Jumping. You made that clear. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P.
It's a combination of some of those letters.
P, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X,
X, Y,
Z. Yay! Do you want to make your sounds?
Who's that? Yeah. And who's that over there? No, who's that over there?
Daddy.
Yeah, that's Daddy. I'm over there. Who's that?
Jessica. I don't know my name. It's too hard.
Jessica.
Yeah, but the hard ones are the ones he breaks out with the out problem.
Yeah, yellow.
We were playing with
Yellow
the
came out
Yellow
of
and
nowhere.
Riley.
Yellow and Riley, yeah, Jack.
We were playing with the dolls, and I named the baby, the mommy, and the daddy. And he said Bommy.
Yeah, I think I'm getting the M now.
It's getting closer.
I have him say milk in the morning,
Not to start
and
a word,
now I'm
no.
just starting with instead of, because if I say milk, he'll say ba.
Oh.
So if I say milk, he'll say ba. Ba. How old are you?
Daddy.
Daddy. Yeah.
Bye.
How old are you? How old?
Two.
Two. What's your name? What's your name? Can you say Jack? Jack Riley.
Riley.
Jack Riley.
That's clear.
Can you say Jack Riley?
Riley.
Yay!
How old are you? How old are you?
How old are you? How old are you, Jack? Hey. Jack.
He likes looking at you guys through this so much.
How old are you?
Are you two?
Are you 468? No. How old is Jack? How old is Jack? Say, I'm 2.
I'm 2.
Yay! Good job.
I'm two. I'm two also.
Is Daddy 2?
I'm too many.
But that's, hello, we're back. We're just talking. I'm so sorry. I'm
Here we
Shannon.
are. I'm Nancy. Welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Good to be here
And I
with you.
apologize, I was completely
No,
off
that's
in
okay.
another place.
We were just deep into a conversation.
Deep into the conversation. I
Yeah.
apologize.
So lots going on this week, as always.
Yes.
And well, we talked about the Alabama bill for
We were all
ABA
excited
therapy.
about
We were
that last
excited.
week, saying that there are only going to be 3 states left, and that it looked like Alabama was a done deal.
It
that they were
passed
gonna-
100-0 in the House.
Yeah. So what happened in the Senate?
It's been blocked. It's been stalled, I mean.
Well, and there's a public hearing that's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
And so we want to let people know, if you're in the state of Alabama, to put your eyeballs on this, get on the phone, talk to these senators, and let them know. I don't really, we've got Senator Dick Brubaker, who is on the Senate floor telling his colleagues not to be guided by insurance lobbyists opposing the measure. And so I don't really understand. Is that where we're at? The insurance companies have come in and said we don't want to pay for this?
I think that it sounds like they're talking about cost associated with it. The purpose of government, though, Brubaker says, is not to rally around and protect the strong, which is so true.
Thank you very much.
It looks like they're lobbyists and that they're talking.
All the more reason for us to stand up and speak up and talk to these senators. If
They're
you're
saying the costs do play a factor when you have to balance a budget. The question is, how much does it really cost?
And the new vote will happen on May 10th. So that's coming up very quickly. Because we're already at the 3rd here. So have your voice be heard. Especially if you're in Alabama, let your senators know what you expect them to do and that you won't stand for anything else. Did you have an opportunity this morning to see there's an amazing story that just broke this morning. In Kansas, an officer, there was a 4-year-old boy on the autism spectrum who had gone missing in a park, and his parents were looking for him. We're not really sure if the officer was in the park looking for the boy, but he saw the boy walking by a pond.
And the boy literally fell into the pond, right?
Yes. And there's
he
a
happened
video
to be there at the right time.
And there is a video of the body cam of the officer that does not hesitate. He runs down the hill, jumps in the water with everything on. You know, there's no taking the shoes off or getting the camera off or whatever. He's in the water and fishes that little boy out of the pond and puts him on the beach there. And you know that if he hadn't been there, like 2 minutes difference, right? And how often have we seen that here on the show?
This is just really kind of a miracle, isn't it, Shannon?
It really is. And this gentleman, Aaron Bulmer from Kansas, he's a hero.
He is a hero.
Very fast thinking, sharp eyes, attention to detail.
That he was right there at that critical time.
And
it's
you
so
see this
important.
little boy. I mean, you know, there's something about it that's so powerful, because how often do we talk about this and you see the moment in which, you know, the fates came together and converged, and this little boy's life was spared. When we talk about elopement and how important it is,
number one cause of death in children with autism and individuals with autism is drowning, as we've discussed. So we've got to be very cognizant of that.
Again, and for, I think our audience is pretty up to speed on this, but it's hard sometimes when we're talking to the audience at large, and they will say, well, you know, why weren't the parents watching? And you just want to scream and go, you just don't get it.
No, how quickly it can happen.
Like, to anybody, how quickly it can happen. The most diligent parent, you know, your focus cannot be 100%, 100% of the time. And it's a life. It's a life. So we want to say congratulations to that family for this quick thinking, and Topeka,
and
Kansas.
To Officer Bulmer, Aaron Bulmer. What a hero.
What a hero. Okay.
This was an interesting, did you see this story about diagnosed, of course you saw it, you found this story, diagnosed autism linked to maternal grandmother smoking and pregnancy.
Yes, and I gave my copy of that to Dr. Grampiche.
Okay.
So you got the lead on that. But yes, I did see it.
It's scientists from the University of Bristol. They looked at 14,000 participants in children of the 90s and found that if a girl's maternal grandmother smoked during pregnancy, the girl is 67 times more likely to display certain traits linked to autism.
Okay, so for instance,
the girl's grandmother.
So my mother smoked. And what they're saying is that, you know, you get your eggs when you're born, all the eggs that you're ever going to have, and that there is the potential that there's something about a mom smoking that changes the DNA in the eggs of a girl who is born. So my mother smoked, my eggs potentially, according to this study, the DNA changed. So I've got a ticking, you know, situation happening in my potential womb. I go to have a child, and the egg that creates that child has been changed by what my mother smoked. And that extensively, they're saying it's a huge risk factor.
Which is just astounding to me that far back.
Well,
there are these factors.
You know, when somebody was explaining to me once, my mother was born in 1937, and when she was born, the egg that created me was born. So I came from a 1937 egg. And when I thought of that, I was like, but I wasn't born in 1937, but that's the egg that created me was created then and was partially formed by my grandmother.
Right.
And so it's not, if you've ever seen Ken Cook from the Environmental Working Group talk about, he does a talk called 7 Americans, 9 Americans, something like that, where he profiles pesticides and chemicals that are in people's bodies. And he says, you're just, 7 random people, and he shows you chemicals in their body that have been banned for 40 years. And yet he reveals to you, spoiler alert, don't listen if you're going to go see him. At the end, he reveals to you that these are newborn babies that have been born in the last year, but they are born with chemicals in their system that have been banned for over 40 years. These things don't go away.
Okay, so that's
So
the takeaway
interesting,
on
and of
this.
course, there's a lot of people pointing at this study saying that they have issues with it. We're waiting for confirmation on that, but
It was in scientific reports, by the way. Anybody wants to look
and
that up.
thus far, it has been inconclusive. They've been studying for years to see if a mother smokes, is there any higher risk of autism, and that's inconclusive. But this seems very powerful, the grandmother. So I'm thrilled that my mother is not alive to hear that, because she would say that I would be blaming her for not blaming anybody. Okay, you want to talk a little bit about the dad whose son was perseverating on Blockbuster?
Oh yes, there was a young man in Mission, Texas, who he's 20, and he has autism, and he loved Blockbuster. That was his thing. I mean, just going to the Blockbuster store.
It was everything.
He would
to
go 2-3 times a week. He just adored it.
Yeah.
And then Blockbuster shut down.
Yeah. And, we've seen this with other, like the case of the woman who, her daughter had one shirt that she only ever wanted to wear, and the mom had gone and bought like 5 of them. So that they're, but then, it's 5 years later and the shirt isn't on the market. And, what do you do when your child perseverates on something that goes away? And sometimes our parents go the extra mile to make sure that our kids have the opportunity. And this dad, you've got the picture there on the screen. Thank you, Samantha. He created a Blockbuster store in his living room.
Yes, he got all of his favorite videos. He put them up there so he could have it all the time, Blockbuster all the time.
I love autism parents.
I know.
I think that we are some of the most creative, like bizarrely creative, but really wonderfully, because it's for our kids. Anything to make our kids happy and to help them. I thought that was a really cute story. And then, of course, on another note, a very not cute story. We've been following all week long the story of the young man who participated in a contest, an essay contest for the UN, because he wanted to have an opportunity to go to the UN and experience that. And I've looked at the essay that he wrote. He won. He was one of many teenagers selected. I've looked at the essay, and what you had to do was absolutely amazing. And at one point they said, why are you interested in coming to the UN? And he talks about the family connection, because you specifically had to be talking about, I think it was Serbia, wasn't it?
It was on the Ukraine. And he sounds like his name is Niko Boskovic.
His mom has some ties to Ukraine. And so he said that, and he said, but beyond that, I'm really fascinated in everything to do with the UN, and I think it would be a great opportunity for autistics for me to come there. There was no way that he was hiding that he was on the autism spectrum. He won, and so he, gets this big award. You get to come and be a scholar at the UN and be a part of this thing. And mother wrote back and said, he's nonverbal.
Right, he uses a letterboard to communicate.
And that I will be coming with him as his chaperone to help facilitate his communication. And they rescinded the invitation and took away the award and said, I'm sorry, we can't accommodate you because there are no chaperones. At first, they just said, no, I'm sorry, we can't accommodate you because you have autism. And then they clarified it and said, well, we can't accommodate people who are nonverbal. And then when there was such a storm about it, they clarified and said, well, we can't have chaperones. And it's stunning. Everyone is saying, are you kidding me that this could happen in this day and age? When you look at this and think, if they were saying, oh, sorry, we can't accommodate a wheelchair. everyone would be like, well, that's 100% not okay. So I don't understand what the disconnect is here.
Right.
With this.
It's a pretty blatant disregard for ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act.
Yeah, it's really stunning. And the one thing, I feel devastated for this young man, and I'm sure that his mother is beside herself for this to have happened in this way.
Yeah.
I know when and I've talked about it extensively here on the show, when my son was 3, we had just joined the YMCA, our local YMCA, and then he, like 16 days later, he got diagnosed. And I went immediately to the YMCA and said, is this going to be a problem? My son has autism. And they were like, no, we're the YMCA. But within a month, they had informed us that my son was not allowed on the premises, that they were not equipped to handle autism and that he could not be there. He was 2.5. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And I still am hurt over it.
Of course.
Today, I am hurt over it that somebody said... First, they were like, "Yeah, no problem," and I should say
that they based that on anything of dealing with him.
Well, yes, he was 2.5, and at one point he went and took a toy away from a child, and they called me off of the gym equipment and were like, "You got to do something," and they all were standing there as if like he was radioactive, and I was like, "We don't let him take the toy away from him and give it back to the other child," and then and they said, well, we don't know what to do. And I said, I'll bring in a behavior person to show you what to do. And I did do that. And then he did throw a toy at a child once. And that was it for them. They were 100% done after that, because they had also had somebody who worked in the nursery who said, I'm not comfortable being around him. And that she did not want to work when he was there. He was 2.5, and he was the most precious, pudgy little 2.5 elf. And the fact that this young girl was like, I don't want to be there when he's there, hurt my heart.
Of course, it's devastating.
And I was not okay.
It makes you feel completely violated.
And I should say, I was not okay that he threw a toy at a child. I'm not excusing that in any way, shape, or form. He was not the only child throwing toys when he threw toys, and those children were not kicked out. And I had been there on a different day, not the day that my child threw a toy, but a child threw a toy that hit me in the eye and cut my eye. And that child's mother was the director of the program, the nursery program. He was not kicked out. And it was not like, oh, we're not equipped to deal with that behavior. But my child, after once throwing a toy, it was
clear discrimination.
Right. And it was hard for me. It's still hard for me. And I know that YMCA has gotten together, and I know from a parent that's been to that YMCA that they've been wonderful, and that after we left, and believe me, I left it different than I found it.
Yeah.
But I know how much it hurts when somebody says, I've had babysitters before who, a friend, I didn't have a babysitter for a night, and she had a babysitter for her kids, and I said, we can't come, I don't have a babysitter. And she said, no, my babysitter will take him too. And then she called me and she was like, oh, yeah, no. Yeah. She doesn't want to do that.
Work with a child with autism.
And I said, oh. And she's like, no, I mean, it's not that, but she doesn't want to have more than 2 kids.
Yeah,
and
but you knew.
I knew exactly what it was. And, these things hurt.
Of course they do.
They really, really hurt. But to have a child who has written something so amazing that he won an award, and have them very publicly say,
you're not welcome.
You're not welcome, and we're the UN. We're the UN, and you can't come do. And it's not the UN that's saying that.
That's what I was saying. It's not the UN.
It's the Odd Fellows. I think that's the name
Peninsula
of the
Odd Fellows Fraternal Organization in Portland, Maine.
And so the trip, and they're the ones who do the trip, and it has been taken away.
Yeah.
And what I love is this young man, Nico is his name. He says, I want to stress that I belong here, and people like me aren't going anywhere. So I feel so bad for the family that they're going through this, and for this young man, but he is going to change conversations because of this.
And they actually have raised money for his trip, and
we should
his
say,
mom
too,
is
that-
not going to quit fighting.
And we should say, too, that Mom, from the beginning, said, I will be chaperoning him, but I'm paying for my own trip.
Right.
It's no additional expense whatsoever. It does mean that they have to have a chair for her.
Right.
Come on.
So let's hope that this has a different outcome now that there's
Get
a public
it-
outcry.
Yeah. So we've got great guests coming up here in just a few minutes. We've got the neuropsychologist, Dr. Amy Sarin, who is she co-founded the Touchpoint solution in late 2015. And you guys have seen, if you've been at all on social media or anywhere, something called Buzzies. And so this is her particular brainchild.
Yes.
And we're going to talk to her about why it's getting so much attention.
So much
why-
buzz.
So much buzz. It's a buzzy. And then a little bit later on in the program, we are having a gentleman who's going to talk to us about coding autism, and we're really
Yes.
excited about that. So we're going to take a short break, and then we will be back with more Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy after these messages.
Nobody ever asks a kid with autism, what is it you'd really like to do? At this school, we ask the kids, what is your goal? What is your dream? Exceptional Minds is a vocational training program for young adults on the autism spectrum who want to have careers in computer animation and visual effects. I think young people with autism are totally underestimated.
When you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. They all have different talents, different skills, and what surprised me is that there really are no limits, that if these guys believe that they can do something, they really can.
It's estimated that 90 to 95% of young adults with autism are unemployed or underemployed.
A lot of young adults still live at home. A lot of them suffer from depression and are very isolated from the rest of the world, and the opportunities for them are very limited.
We want to develop careers for our young adults. Our full-time program runs 3 years, at the end of which we have job placement and job coaching. We have a work readiness program. We also have our own in-house studio so that when our students graduate, they can do on-the-job training and work on real projects.
We outsourced about 30, 40 shots to the team here. They did fantastic work that we can put into a movie and be proud of it. It's great. I mean, we want to do it again.
The studio is their first step into the professional world, the first step in their new careers as digital artists.
The whole purpose is to get the students out into the real world.
We all have the same dreams. We want significance, dignity, and purpose with our lives. We have an opportunity to give those 3 words to every single student at this school who will actually be able to go out and participate in the dream.
This is my first full-time, full-paying job. I primarily work in After Effects. I learned After Effects at Exceptional Minds. It seemed like a good place for me to fit in because I was interested in animation.
Right from the first day that Nicky set foot in our company, he was producing work for us. We saw what level of professionalism is being instilled in them from the very beginning.
This was the first opportunity where Nicky could combine something he loved to do with something he was really, really good at that could eventually lead to employment.
When we first met Kevin, he was working at a supermarket bagging groceries, and they said he would never amount to anything else.
I work at Stargate Studios, and I'm a junior compositor. I mainly do like rotoscoping right now, and I'm still learning.
I think that you find great talent in the most amazing places. The students at Exceptional Minds have had a fair amount of training to get them ready for the visual effects environment.
If it wasn't for Exceptional Minds, I might still be at the supermarket, and I might be living at my parents' house.
Everything's changed. Nicky has purpose.
It feels like I'm a member of society now.
He's capable of making it on his own.
Once you get inside and you see what's really happening there, you immediately want to be a part of it.
It's the dream factory, you know, the movie business. And if you can connect people with their dreams, then the magic happens.
At Exceptional Minds, we like to say that we are changing lives one frame at a time.
Hello, fellow activists. Today we're going to talk about the 10 steps to empowerment. Step number 1, accept and embrace this challenge. By telling you to accept and embrace the challenge, I don't mean you have to love autism. Let's get this straight. I love my child with autism, but I hate that autism stole a big part of his childhood. When I look back at my journey, I realize that I knew in my gut that my son was regressing at the age of 2. I had a hard time with acceptance. It didn't come easy for me. My denial may have stemmed from the fact that I didn't want to go through what my own mother had, raising a child with Down syndrome with no support. I even equated my mother's alcoholism with her being stuck at home with a disabled child. I didn't want that life for myself. I couldn't believe that having lived through the experience of having a brother with special needs, I was now faced with having to raise my own child with special needs as well. But being in denial did not make the truth go away. It's when we can accept the truth that it can set us free. Until next time, stay strong and keep the faith.
And welcome back to Let's Talk Autism. We are joined now by neuropsychologist Dr. Amy Sarin. Dr. Sarin co-founded the Touchpoint Solution in late 2015 with the mission of bringing relief to those who suffer from anxiety and stress. And over the last decade, Dr. Sarin's work in therapy and neuroscience led to the discovery that a component of successful PTSD treatment could be used as a standalone product for a range of individuals who have stress and anxiety. The product was a powerful treatment, too powerful to be confined to doctors' offices. So she worked with her partner, Vicki Mayo, to bring Buzzies to the world. Welcome to the show, Dr. Amy.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, good to have you here.
We're thrilled.
Buzzies. Tell us exactly what Buzzies are.
All right. Well, first thing to cover is that we actually are changing our name. There's some confusion with the name Buzzies for some reason, and people thought that that what we have was actually shocking people because of the name, or that it would be too loud to use in a classroom. So I will be referring these as touch points today,
Okay.
and I might slip up and say Buzzies, but we are shifting the name just because consumers were getting a little bit confused. But these are touch points, and they have a technology inside them called bilateral alternating stimulation in tactile form. This is a similar technology to what's been used in therapies like EMDR and tapping therapies, and therapies that typically work better for certain conditions like PTSD or anxiety or phobias. Some treatments work better than traditional treatments, and people don't really know that when we add some things that are kind of interfere with what we call the somatosensory cortex, we actually can reduce in real time the brain stress response. Okay, now there's a couple rules to using these. One is that you have to have 2, and 2 come in a kit, and they have to be one on one side of the body and one on the other. And what they do is they help the brain make a different decision about the stress response. And so for people with autism, the issue is that even simple changes in the environment, like sensory issues, for example, the brain will choose to put the body into a state of heightened nervous system, fight or flight, anxiety. This is happening so often in children and adults with autism. So this is kind of a stress hack. And this is a way to move their brains back into a calm state without them having to do anything or change the sensory environment around them.
Okay, so how do they wear the Buzzies? Explain how that works.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways. The touch points will work no matter where they are on the body. So they do come in these discs here, Okay, and what I'm doing is I'm pulling off a clip, and they also come with clips. So you can put these discs in your pockets, one on each side of the body, in socks. They don't have to be touching the skin to work, okay? Or you can add the clip, and I don't know if this will show up on camera, but see this clip right
Yes,
here?
we can see
that
it.
I just slid off?
Uh-huh.
We have these clips to make it easy. So you can clip them on to your clothing, one on one side of the body, one on the other. So typically when I'm doing interviews like this, if I have a belt on my dress, I'll clip it to the belt, or I'll put them in my pockets, or you can hold them in your hands. We also have watch bands, and they will fit. We have adapters that come in the kit that will fit any standard watch band. And there's also watch bands for sale on a site called buzziesbands.com. And you can buy cool colors and things like that. And so people can actually wear them on their wrists.
Okay, so you've got them, and we just saw a picture that Samantha showed too, that you sync this up in some way with your phone, maybe?
Yeah. So there's an free app that anybody can download, and I will pull mine up right here. So if you can, it's the app, and the app has controls on it. So you control the frequency, the intensity, and the overlap. So that basically, especially with kids with autism, they're very sensory sensitive or sensory avoidant in many cases. So some of them like it very, very low intensity, just a very, very gentle vibration. And some of them like it a little bit more intensive vibration. So we can play with that in a way that they respond to better. But the entire range of what's available on the app will work to help calm the body down.
And it is a vibration that happens.
It is a vibration. It's non-invasive. And this is why we had to change the name. People were like, what are you doing? Are you sending? How does this work? Because I think people think we have to do a lot to manage stress. And really, when you understand the brain works, you just need to interfere with one network that's a non-conscious network, and that's the network that's deciding what to do with the stress response. And you can do that with gentle vibrations, but they have to be very specifically calibrated, and there's some tricks and some trade secrets as to exactly how that works. But when
so
you do that...
Can I interrupt you for just 1 second? So how does the app tell it when to vibrate?
It doesn't tell it when to vibrate yet. That's going to be a next generation product. It's not reading anything from the body. What it's doing is it's just the external control. So you control when you turn them on and when you turn them off.
So if you're feeling stress, you tap the thing on your phone and it gives you a gentle vibration, and that helps to calm you down.
Right. And we just had statistics come in from about 1,100 of our users, and I had no control over this data. It wasn't a study, but it's just when they get the app, it asks them how stressed out they feel, and then after 30 seconds, it asks them again. And from those entries, showed a 71% reduction in stress in 30 seconds.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
And those are from actual people that just bought the product and used it and entered in their numbers. We got that all in an Excel spreadsheet. We ran the data, and we had it checked by Midwestern University, and they came up with the same results.
Now, why does it have to be worn on the right and left side of the body? Just curious.
It's a good question, isn't it? It's because of the way the somatosensory cortex is organized. We have what we call contralateral organization of the brain, and if you're just doing something on one side of the brain, it doesn't interfere enough with the network's decision to lower the stress response, so it has to be on both sides of the body. It also has to be alternating. It can't be like a TENS unit, goes like this, and it's the same time on both sides of the body. That actually won't produce the same effect.
Okay. And it has pre-settings for different things for sleep?
Yes, there are pre-settings for focus, anger, calm, performance, and cravings. And cravings, I get a lot of questions about the cravings, like how would this change somebody's cravings? And the answer is that when you're stressed out, our bodies are always, just like when you're thirsty, right? Your brain signals, get a drink, get a drink, get a drink. And when you're stressed out, your brain is signaling, do something to calm yourself down, do something to calm yourself down. And a lot of times that could be eating things like chocolate or drinking wine or doing some things that maybe have long-term consequences that we don't want to go to, but that relieve our stress in the moment. And so being calm, you won't have as many cravings for the things that you're doing to try to calm yourself down that might have consequences.
Okay.
Okay.
Makes sense.
And we should note that you're not suggesting that this is something that would take the place of therapy for individuals with autism, but something to be used in conjunction with. Is that correct?
Yes. This is not a cure for any medical or mental condition, but what it does is it seems to help lower the stress response and get people into a calmer baseline so that certain things can happen. So if you're in a therapy and the sensory environment, you're going into sensory overload, having these on can, in many cases, prevent that, and then you can get more out of that therapeutic session. Or if somebody's having a hard time going to sleep, and you put the touch points on, this will help someone go into the right state to be able to sleep, because we all have those nights we're tossing and turning, we're stressed out, we can't get those automatic thoughts to stop. And if we put these on, this will help us go into a calmer state and we'll be able to sleep.
So I think the big important thing here is, how do we get them?
Yeah, where?
Well, they are only available online right now. And we're transitioning from Buzzies, so the URL still works. You can go to buzzies.com, or you can go to ilovetouchpoint.com, and it'll route you to the same website and order them online.
And when it's buzzies.com, we need to specify that it's BUZZIES.com. That's on the screen right now. But for those of you listening on iTunes, BUZZIES.com.
And in terms of the cost, let's just talk about that for a minute. How much do they cost?
They're $240 for the set. And the set comes, I have boxes, I think they're taped shut. So you'll get a box here, and you'll get 2 Buzzies, and you'll also get a charger. And the charger is a standard Android charger, so if you have a Samsung phone, you can also use that to charge them. But it's got a splitter cable on it, and you can charge them both at once.
Okay.
It also comes with a plug, and then the clips and the adapter for the watch bands. And then the watch bands you can purchase optimally if that's the way you want to wear them.
And you do offer financial aid for some people, right? You have scholarships.
Yes, we do. We have actually given away over $70,000 in scholarships.
Okay.
And so there is a scholarship program that people can apply to online.
Mm-hmm.
And for those, obviously we can't give scholarships to everybody. We get thousands of these requests on a monthly basis for scholarships. So if somebody doesn't get a scholarship, we can support them in getting a crowdfunding campaign going so that they can crowdfund their touch points and then receive them that way.
Okay, remarkable. And since we have you here, Dr. Sarin, briefly before we came live, we were talking with you about PTSD, and I think that a lot of our parents out there have some form of PTSD. And so you had said something I thought very profound about how treatable PTSD is, and I wondered if you could share with us a little bit about your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think that we really are stuck in a paradigm now where people are thinking that certain things have to be lifelong conditions, and they don't. If there's an onset of PTSD, there can be an offset of PTSD in many cases. And the statistics are really staggering when you're doing the right kinds of therapies. It's just how treatable things are. Once you understand how PTSD is kind of a tripwiring of your fear system, you can untrip that. Now, depending on how long somebody's had it and what precipitated it and what other factors are going on, it depends on how long treatment is. But I would say for people with PTSD to seek therapies like neurofeedback or eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, and know that there is some relief for that. And certainly touch points can offer relief in real time, but they're not going to cure PTSD.
Okay. Well, I'm certainly encouraging to hear that how treatable that it is.
And it's definitely, a valuable tool for children and adults with autism, obviously.
It is, and I'll tell you, one of the number one questions we get from the parents of children with autism is, they're nervous. Their nervous systems are really heightened because they have a child that's, unpredictable and that has a lot of stress and anxiety, and there's a lot of complicating factors in, parenting a child. And it's very heartwarming to see all of the progress, and there's some beautiful, wonderful things about it, but it is very, very stressful. So the question I get from parents is, well, what if my child doesn't like them? And that can happen every once in a while when if they introduce these, a new stimulus, and then the child, throws it, let's say. And it's just kind of going into a movie theater where you go in and it feels really loud, but then you will adjust over time. So what we say to those parents is just give it a little bit of time or try it again. And if in the worst case scenario, there's only a few cases of this, but the child really does not like and can't tolerate the sensation, those parents still need the touch points because of what they're dealing with.
Right. So
And
the parent
I
can
would
use it.
Yeah, I would encourage the parents to, a lot of the parents take care of themselves last.
Right.
But when you're on an airplane, you've got to put
Take
that
your
oxygen mask on
first. We know
first.
that.
Otherwise,
Yes.
you're useless to help everybody else. And so we're really encouraging the parents to think about stress relief for themselves, not just for their children, so that everybody's lives can be improved.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Buzzies.com,
Right.
BUZZIES.com, or I Love Touchpoint.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Sarin.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much, and thank you for all that you do.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And we're going to take a quick break and be back with our guest,
Oliver Thornton.
We're going to talk about coding autism.
Yes, Oliver Thornton will be with us right after these messages. Stick with us.
The pain of comparison. Yes, I know it well. It is never fun to compare your child with other children because that's not easy when your child has a difference, such as being on the autism spectrum. And if you have a child with autism, we have the joy of comparing our child not only to neurotypical children, but also to other children with autism. You have to remember that your child is your child. We love them because they're our children, and their job is to be a child. And our job is just to parent and love them and help them as much as we can. When we hear about some child doing something that our child isn't doing yet or may not do in the long run, it's pretty difficult. And I can tell you, milestones are a hard one. The graduations, the birthday parties, you have to remember you can get through this. One of the best ways to do it, fun. You have to have a group of safe people that you can go to, hang out, that love your child, do something fun together. One of the best solutions is to kind of think about where we are then. Maybe it's time to kind of look at a different situation or a different intervention. So you might look at a different school, you might look at something you've never tried before to be a therapy or a biomedical intervention for your child. Also, disability has always been seen as a form of wisdom in some of the world's great faiths and religions and philosophies. They have a lot to teach us. Our children are beautiful people. They affect people different ways, and they show us really what human nature is all about. So when you feel that pain of comparison, just know that your child is a special person. And I'm sitting here to tell you there are children out there, girls and boys, young adults, older adults who do things that people never thought they would do. They're going to surprise you. You will have those moments. So be assured that your time is coming to be that one that everyone's happy for.
Are those your eyes? Is that your smile? I've been looking at you forever, yet I never saw you before. Are these your hands?
As a celebrity, whatever that means, you want to do what you can to give back. The way I've always looked at it, if I'm available, I'm going to be there. And when you get there and you see what folks are doing and the lives that they're touching, how can you not want to continue to be a part of it?
And for the first time, I am looking in your eyes.
What can we all do to make a difference? Not only with trying to find a cure, but to help the children and the families that may not have the resources for these kids.
When you're looking back at me, now I understand what...
None of us are doing enough, but I think that we're doing as much as we possibly can. Because we all live in society, and the more we can all do to help society, the more it helps all of us.
And for the first time, I am looking in your eyes. And for the first time, I'm seeing who you are. I can't believe how much I see when you're looking back at me. I understand what love is. Love is for the first time.
Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, and we're at the ABCs and XYZs of Special Needs Conference. And this year, for the first time, they've got something really remarkable. It's the Entrepreneurial Boutique. These are all items that have been made and are being sold by individuals who have special needs. So we're going to do a little shopping and talk to some of these fabulous entrepreneurs. Come on.
My name is Molly Rarick, and I'm founder of Breed's Gift. We're a nonprofit that serves teens and adults with special needs, like Chase here. We were founded in 2013 and serve people in the Conejo Valley, Santa Barbara, and LA.
Our main objective is to give our participants the skills they need to gain a more independent life.
My name is Shelley Cox, and Lisa Zalagi and I are founders of Creative Steps and Create Micro Business Enterprises. And the items that we're selling here today are all made by the clients who have passions about what they want to make, and then they get the profits from what they make after we've paid all of the other expenses.
We are here today because my goal is to be independent, and also I would like to share all my artwork, and I would like to sell.
Thinking about at his young age being a businessman, it's amazing. I cannot be more proud.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Nancy and I are really excited because we love to bring fabulous young people into the studio who are inspirational and doing things that shake the world, and that's certainly true of this young man. This is Oliver Thornton. He is the creator of Coding Autism, and in just a second we're going to talk very specifically with him about what his mission is with Coding Autism, because it's big and brilliant. But we do want to reference, as a side note, that Oliver was diagnosed with Asperger's as a child, and that autism is something very familiar in your family. But you are an incredibly talented young man. You have your real estate license. We were just talking about this, and now you have created Coding Autism. So I think we should start with what Coding Autism is and how did it start?
Sure. So I'll flip it. I'll start with how Coding Autism started, and then I'll go with what we are trying to accomplish with it.
Okay.
So Coding Autism all started, so as you mentioned, I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome when I was 2 years old, shortly after my older brother was diagnosed with autism. Later on in my life, my half-brother was also diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, so autism is very prevalent in my life. I've always thought about different ways as to how I can improve the autism community, whether it's through an organization or through community service or anything like that. When I was at college, Cal Lutheran University, I was in a class called Venture Development, where the premise of the course was to develop a startup concept that you would enroll into your university's new venture competition. And I took that as an opportunity to dwell into autism further and read about it and see what some of the problems were in that community. And I came across so many different articles that talked about the unemployment and underemployment rates of adults on the autism spectrum that would range between 80% and 90%. And I was just completely mind blown at that statistic because as someone who's grown up on the spectrum and someone who has an older brother who was a little bit more severe but was still able to get his high school diploma and obtain his real estate license and have a successful upbringing, that I wanted to develop some type of initiative that would combat that and flip the whole education model on its head so that we can train adults on the spectrum to learn a skill set that they can thrive and have a very high career growth profession throughout their career. So we took Coding Autism, which is a professional training and coaching company that trains adults on the autism spectrum in software and tech skills such as web development, software engineering, cybersecurity, quality assurance, etc., but also incorporating the soft skills training element of it, from social skill building to career counseling to financial management, all with the hope of obtaining employment within the tech industry.
Amazing.
And so is it actually launched?
So yeah, we have the like the legal filing for our company. We're set up as a for-profit social enterprise in the process of becoming a B corporation with B Labs. So if you think of your Warby Parkers, your Patagonias, or your Ben and Jerry's or Tom's, those are all B corporations, which are geared towards social impact and having a business model that caters towards causes like autism, for example. We just recently launched a successful crowdfunding campaign on Start Some Good, where we were able to raise just shy of $53,000.
That's amazing.
Which is, all that money is going to be going towards launching our first program, which is aimed to be around winter of 2017 this year.
And what will that program consist of?
So that program will train up to 15 adults on the autism spectrum in web development, some skills in quality assurance and Scrum principles. Well, as I previously mentioned, also incorporate some of the soft skills training, from social skill building to financial management to real-world career preparation, and encompass all of that to where we can help find our students employment, whether it's internships or full-time positions within the tech industry.
So you're really looking to set them up for success.
Exactly.
They're going to have the skills to be able to do the job, both the technical skills, but also how to, deal with the water cooler and the different rules, social rules that happen. It's really a lovely thing. And we know that tech companies have made these statements. Several big tech companies have said, we are going to employ this many people on the autism spectrum by this date, but they're having some trouble getting people in who can do both of the. Sometimes they have the tech skill, but the social skill part is hard, and sometimes they have social skills, but they don't have the tech skills. Is that what made you want to do this, because you saw that need?
Yeah, so when I was originally looking at how to solve the unemployment, underemployment piece puzzle, I came across a lot of articles that, like you said, some of the major companies like Microsoft and SAP and Hewlett-Packard all launched autism hiring initiatives for trained adults on the autism spectrum in these types of skill sets, from data analysis to cybersecurity to your typical software engineer, and have proposed objective headlines saying they want a percentage of their workforce to be employed within their company by a certain time. So far, a lot of these organizations are on par with their goals, but their biggest problem has been finding trained talent for these roles, because hypothetically these companies want to recruit as many individuals on the spectrum as they possibly can, but if they don't have the skill sets to be able to perform in those roles, they can't do so. So I've been in communication with a lot of the leaders of those divisions, and with Coding Autism, where we're trying to come in is to provide that autism specialized training piece of the pipeline so that we can train adults on the spectrum in the minimal amount of skill sets to where they can be considered for the interview process, where then these companies have their sophisticated onboarding processes to pipeline those talent into their industries. Also, with the tech industry, what's so fascinating about it is not only is it the most highly desired profession for companies, you're looking for your software engineers and whatnot, but also the entry barrier from an academic degree standpoint is minimal. You don't have to have your college degree from an Ivy League school to work at Facebook or to work at Microsoft or SAP. As long as you have the skill set to be able to perform in those roles, they're so highly desired that companies are willing to bypass any type of academic achievement.
So when will your first class, do you think, start? When you'll have your first student?
We're aiming to have our first program take place around November of this year.
Okay.
We just wrapped up our campaign, and a lot of our goals are focused on refining the program that we want to offer, hiring our coding instructor and other employees that would play an integral role in that program. And also we're interviewing candidates for our program. So anyone who's interested in enrolling for Coding Autism's first prototype program, which also will be free for the first 15 students, can go on our website, www.codingautism.com, and sign up for the wait list there, where we'll reach out over the next few months about interviews.
Amazing. And free for the
training.
first 15.
Correct.
And is there a specific age range you're looking for? Do they need to be over 18?
Yes, so ideally we're looking for high school graduates at the minimum. Anyone above 18 that is looking to get into the tech industry, or they could be someone who's has a current job that they're not satisfied with and wants to transition into the technology industry. Those are the type of candidates that we are looking for.
And obviously, you need for this to start, you need to be located in Southern California, because they need to. It's face-to-face classes.
Yeah, so our first offering is face-to-face classes, which will be hosted at Hub 101 in Westlake, which is just outside of Thousand Oaks in Los Angeles. In the future, we will have online offerings that will cater to anyone around the globe who's interested in our program. But as we are a startup, we're resourceful, and with the way that we want to construct our program, it makes more sense for it to be in person, so that we can have our occupational therapists and other personnel on site to navigate the process.
Fabulous. And what's the web address again for your website?
It's at www.codingautism.com.
Fabulous. You're inspirational,
Oliver,
young
you really
man.
are. You're
Look
gonna
at
be-
you. You're doing good things.
You
Oliver.
are. You are.
Incredible. We are totally out of time.
Okay.
Samantha's getting the hook.
Okay.
We are not doing a live show tomorrow because we have some exciting news coming up that we'll be sharing with you a little bit later on in the week about an event that we've got coming up with
Yes,
you
we did.
that will involve Corey Feldman. I'm just going to tease
Mhm.
that. But we will be back here live a week from today with Dr. Doreen Granpeche and with Let's Talk Autism
Okay.
with Shannon and Nancy. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me.
And yourselves a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye for now.